In this video, I'm going to go over 10 reasons about why we should bring back the Tennessee Pass. Note that these reasons aren't in any particular order. Without further ado, let's get on with it. Number 1. Jobs, every politician's favorite word. There are very few good full-time employers in the Valley, let alone ones with benefits and retirement. Seasonal and service work, ebb and flow with the tourism, and banking on tips is a risky play. For those looking for more stability in their budget, railroads can offer a wide spectrum of jobs and many different skill sets. Whether it's maintenance of way, crew, administration, it takes a lot of people to run a railroad. Don't listen to those retired Nimbys up in Eagle County. We still need work. Number 2. Cost of living. Due to a combination of high rent and low wages, there are many people in the valley that struggle to make ends meet. I personally have had friends leave town, and for that matter, Colorado, because of the long-term financial challenges. Cars eat up a lot of our monthly budget, second only to housing. As a minimum, you are burning $8,000 per vehicle per year for fuel, maintenance, and insurance. And that's if you don't have any issues or accidents. That's the minimum. If we can make car light, or preferably car-free living, viable in the mountains, then people can have an option. It's really a choice. They can either choose to move somewhere else less expensive but keep their car, or maybe they can sell their car off and stay in town. Because in the end, we want to keep carbon out of our air, money in our pockets, and most importantly, we want to keep our friends in town. Number 3. Sustainability. Climate change is a tough nut to crack. Many of us feel powerless in the wake of the coming crisis. The auto manufacturers, who are partially responsible for getting us into this predicament, want us to believe that we can just buy our way out of this mess with the purchase of a brand new shiny EV. I'm a bit skeptical of the notion that we can just consume our way out of an environmental crisis, and EVs have their place, but if you want to make a real dent in carbon emissions, it's time to start riding the rails again. Number 4. Shortcut. I'm going to level with you, Colorado. Our state really isn't built for high-speed rail. We've got a lot of choke points and obstacles. We call them mountains. So unless you're east of Denver or west of Graham Junction or along the Front Range corridor, we're probably not going to get high-speed rail. But hey, on this channel, I'm not talking about high-speed rail. I'm talking about regional rail. So the reason why this is important is that we need every single shortcut we can get. Because unless we're pulling a Japan or a Switzerland and drilling tunnels all the way through our mountain ranges, which I honestly don't think we're going to do, we need to leverage every single physical shortcut we have. Reactivating the Tennessee Pass will reduce the rail traffic through Denver, reduce the strain on the Moffett Tunnel, and provide an alternative direct route for our painfully slow American rail network. Number 5. Connection to future rail projects. I'll be honest, sometimes this one feels more like the prisoner's dilemma. We're all hoping that across the country, other people are planning ahead, thinking ahead, investing in their own rail infrastructure. Because the thing is that we need everything from the low-level rail infrastructure to the mid-level regional rail, all the way up to the high-speed rail for everything to work correctly. And if we don't all do our part to build out our local networks, the entire national system collapses and we still are stuck in our cars. Driving ridership is key to make sure that we get good service on this future national system. So in a way, we can look at what we have to contribute to this future national system, and we shouldn't sell ourselves short. I'm sure people are going to continue to want to come visit us. Number 6. Promote transit-oriented development in small towns. This means more bike infrastructure, more bus infrastructure, car shares at stations, and we want to see less of this and more of this. Getting rid of our downtown parking lots and replacing them with valuable commercial real estate will help increase the tax base and revenue of the county so they can afford to build out all these new transit-oriented development projects. Number 7. Reduce traffic. Well, I know not everyone's going to want to take up the offer of buying a train ticket, but every single truck and car we can take off the road will help all those remaining car drivers to have at least a little bit better quality of life in their own little box. which is fine, that's what they want. But if we can alleviate the inrush and, well, outrush of weekender traffic on 285 and 50 and many other small 2-lane mountain roads that are really struggling to keep up with capacity, then we're in a situation where everybody wins. Number 8, improve overall road safety. So in Colorado, we kind of take it as a point of cultural pride that we drive our twisted mountain roads in the most adverse of conditions. But, if we're honest, we've all been stuck behind inexperienced drivers who either frustrate us with their slow speeds or terrify us with their risky driving. Driving these roads is not for everyone, and if given a choice, I'm sure many would take a train instead. So why don't we offer an alternative where we can? I know we can't build a rail line to every single ski area in town in the state, but there are some where we can. Let's take those wary drivers off the road, reduce the wear and tear, decrease congestion. All of these things will make driving safer for those who choose and want to drive. Remember, you can be the most experienced winter driver with a nice 4x4, snow tires, and all the aftermarket attachments. None of that prevents a minivan from Kansas spinning into you on the way down from the hill. Give them a rail option, it keeps you safe, and it keeps them safe. Number 9, legacy. In this section, I'm going to go over a few things. History, precedent, and the future. But first of all, we need to look to our history. We need to look at what this rail line did. It is not our enemy, it is our ally. This rail line built the valley. I, for one, am thankful that it is still here. So much of Colorado's once Swiss-level rail network has been ripped up. It is painful to look at all of our old narrow-gauge grades and think of what could have been if we didn't bet the entire country on highways. For precedent, we need to remember that this rail line has already served the valley for over 100 years, and it still has so much more it can give. For the future, when it comes to reactivation, it's not the rails, bridges, or tunnels that matter. It's the fact that the right-of-way is still intact after all these years. That is the most expensive part of any rail project in this country, and we already have that. Odds are a private company like Colorado Midland and Pacific will pay that bill as they reactivate the line for their own freight use. It's our job as a community to demand that quality passenger services are included with any reactivation project by any operator. And number 10, the vulnerability of our towns. We are in the middle of nowhere. All of our tourist traffic shows up via one mode of transit. How expensive does gas need to get before we start to see tourism numbers go down? Do we honestly expect that in the next 10 years, everyone will have an EV with the range to get out here in the middle of nowhere? And even if they do, are we putting ourselves on the hook to build out the infrastructure to handle thousands of EVs showing up for the weekend with a dead battery? We have a rail line that we can use. Many towns in the mountains don't even have that. It gives us a competitive advantage going forward. As someone who lives off-grid, I am accustomed to the notion of spending a lot of money up front for better savings down the line. An energy crisis is coming. We need to make it more efficient, both economically and in terms of raw energy, for people to get out here and enjoy our town. So whether you want to call it future-proofing, thinking ahead, planning ahead, or just providing an alternative means to get here, all of these add up to a stronger base to support our town's economy. So there you have it. Those are my 10 points. A lot of these are built on the assumption that passenger rail will be included in any reactivation, but there are also merits for just a freight line as well. I hope to see both, and if anything happens out of this, we should demand that passenger service is returned to the valley. There's definitely a long road ahead of us, and I know there's a lot of opinions out there. And over the course of this channel, I plan on digging into each one of these reasons and extrapolating and expounding a bit about the finer points of each one of these reasons I've brought up. I know there's a lot of people out there that want to see this rail line just stay dormant and stay quiet. There's a lot of people who built very nice homes very close to this rail line. And that's totally their right to do so. But we need to have a community-wide discussion about how this rail line can serve us, and not just have those who are worried about change and something different happening in the valley use that fear to control the rest of us. I'm talking to the people who live in the valley who are at their wits' end, who really still want to live here, but it is getting more and more expensive year after year. Our businesses that are struggling to hold on to employees. And the fact that we keep on seeing less snow on our mountains year after year. We feel helpless, whether you're trying to live where you love, or keep good help around, or just want to keep shredding on the mountains. We all feel so helpless as we're heading into this century, and we don't know what to do. Elon Musk and all the tech billionaires say, just buy our tech, build a Hyperloop, buy a Tesla, we'll solve the problem, don't you worry. And those of us down here on the ground were like, we don't even have the money to buy a newer, more efficient car, let alone buy an electric vehicle. And like I said, I don't think that's the solution. And there are plenty of other people online who have already debunked EVs as the climate savior. We need to rethink the way how we build towns, and we need to rethink the way we get around. We have such an advantage, a godsend, in that there is a wonderful rail line sitting right there waiting to be used. And it might take 10 years. It might take 20. But we need to do something that is more than just give up and leave town and accept the status quo. So I want to see something different happen in this valley. I want to see something that can help everyone, not just the wealthy, not just those who can afford EVs, and not just those that can live off grid and be immune to a lot of this stuff. We're in this together, and we need to find a way to lift everyone out of the situation instead of just asking everyone to leave town because they can't afford it. So let's bring some jobs to this valley. Let's maybe make it possible to not have to give all your money to the oil companies and the car companies. And just maybe, somewhere along the line, we might find a better quality of life in our towns, in our communities, and in our environment.